Yo, here is how you deal with Voli as an Ambessa, but here is a quick tip first of all. So you want to always leash with Ambessa because you can deal, you know, 300, 400-ish damage very easily, which does help actually in long run your jungle to clear faster. And so in here we kind of like sidestep around his E, but he is in lane. And so these are the runes you should also like copy paste just now if you are in the matchup. Now the reason for that is very very simple. I'm gonna keep playing it at the same time you guys observe things. So you don't want to go grass because if you try to basic him, he kills you, you're fucked. Now, you don't want to go conqueror because you can't go extended because he fucks you up anyways for a very long period of time. And it means, it doesn't mean like one item you have him, it doesn't mean two item you have him, he just Fs you, you know, so um, generally speaking, even if you get a kill on him, he still stat checks you all in, so you shouldn't really think of Ambessa as like a strong all-in champ. In here we utilize our Q, sudden impact, CS a little bit meantime with our Q and allow him to push. Stay away from his lightning. Now if you guys notice Erengo D-Shield, I know D-Shield has value against Volibear because people say his lightning procs the D-Shield. But what if I say you could use your abilities to CS and stay on the side of the wave and just not get caught by his lightning most of the time? This is also very very helpful. I have also like 8 cooldown runes so I can utilize my abilities a little more. In here I dashed out of his shield and I Q'd him before his shield arrived. In here we went in because we got an electrocute proc. He did trade back a little bit, but that shouldn't be the end of the ward. It does run Doran's ring, it does run some weird like scaling setup and some murder game stuff. Interesting. Now in here, as much as possible, you want to maximize out your sudden impact procs, your electrocute procs, because Grasp does nothing against Voli, as I said before, so you kind of like want to go for some bursty trades, then get out. So every time you kind of like want to play around his E, so when he casts his E, he lifts his hand up, but he can hide it with his Q animation, so be very careful. In here I did a slight misplay. I W'd the cannon, I picked it up, but I turned back, and this is what happens. If you don't walk away in time, he does go for like 300-ish damage into your HP bar. So there's also like kind of like a bad example on what not to do. But in here, what was the reason I went in, guys? So check. Every time someone last hits, this is also like a generic tip beside, you know, leashing. When someone last hits and they have cooldown on their abilities, that would actually allow them to all in you. You can go for a nice trade because when they last hit something, their basic attack is on timer, and in here, even though his E is up, he cannot connect it properly with his without his Q, just because he can't stun lock you. So I had to go for a really quick trade. I didn't even basic attack because I'm gonna proc with my Q anyways, the Electro. And if I would go for a basic, then he would Q me, so it's more practical to dash away. But memorize 13 seconds cooldown, 13 again. This guy does run Jack of all trades, that's why it's 13.73. Usually it's like more, but this guy does run a little bit of cooldown, so it's like supposed to be, you know, like 14 here, but depends, I guess. If he runs Jack of all trades, you can check it, you know. But again, in here we get a really practical trade. We do utilize the fact that he can't actually get a consistent E off on us. So basically, our electrocute is up, bomb plating is coming, and so what do we observe here? Again, his E is on cooldown, so his E gives him a massive shield. So this shield does give him 20 plus 40% of his maximum health, so that's quite big. It does a lot of damage, 11% of your HP plus 99, and the slow. Now, because this main ability is on cooldown, I was allowed to all-in him, because you gotta remember, the ability is up, that's one thing, right? But the thing is, it takes time until it also like arrives, so that allows you to get a nice all-in angle. So in here, check, still on cooldown, 14 seconds. Count that in your head. Every time he uses it, count that in your head. And by the way, when he uses it, there's like a so he uses the ability, when the ability goes on cooldown, and when the ability comes down, the lightning, that's when it actually like gonna give him a shield if he's inside. But you see there's like a 2-second-ish delay, right? So even though his ability is up, it's not an instant shield, it's not an instant damage, so he will not be able to like deal with you in any possible way. And so in here again, what do we do? This is also like a general tip. We have some degree of HP, and the wave pushes towards us, and this champion also automatically pushes the wave, because, you know, Volibear's players, no matter what, they will push. That's like the rule. but his champion is also kind of like forced to non-stop push, because the thing is like this champion's kit, every time he last hits, he ramps up his passive to the point where he just spam AoE with the wave. Now in here we are cautious with his E. So again, as I said, when he lifts his hand, he casts his E, and he will usually try to use his E to punish you when you last hit. So he got the mind game it out, last hit, weave in some abilities in between last hits, so you don't do things in a pattern base, so he gets to predict that. Again, see? His hand lifts up, it means he casts his E. Now, I know you guys don't see the same animation as I do, because we are in the replay, but that's what's gonna happen in game. You're also gonna hear a sound effect when you're on his E. Now in here we're gonna look for a Rika, because we can go for bigger Rikas. We get Tiamat, helps a lot to, you know, sort of push proxy, kinda like seal grabs a little bit if it makes sense, kinda like get that electrocute proc more easily. Profane Hydrate is super cheap these days, so it does give you openings. Now, I know they didn't go Eclipse, and why I didn't go Eclipse in a hard matchup like Voli, right? So in other hard matchups you get, you know, like kinda like Shen can be hard for a while, you get Eclipse, it's way easier. Because his stat checks you anyways, so there isn't anything. Like, I'm telling you, like, if anyone is smart assing, you know, saying stuff like you get Sojin, Black Cleaver, Standard Sky, any type of fight, there's nothing you can build into some champions. There's literally nothing you can build to. In here I went for a plate and I disengaged, just like that. But there's nothing really. So I got the plate and I intentionally disengaged towards my team because there's a fight going on. But against some champs, it's not practical to build items into them offensively, but offensively. Same logic applies, for example, to Tryndamere, into Malphite. You just kind of want to go hop, get the Tiamat, proxy, you know, and it's just like against some champions you can build into them, you build rather into their team, if it makes sense. Now in here I rotated downwards after getting the plate, because I noticed there is also like an opportunity, even though I don't get to proxy, to actually like collapse on this level 3 Lulu. We picked up the Lulu in no time, and the good thing is then we pick up the Lee Sin. I didn't imagine he takes this Q, so I shoot an R, but I missed my R actually a little bit. I didn't even imagine he gonna take it, but that was a mess up on my part. We pick up the Lee Sin anyway, so that shouldn't, later on, not now though. So that shouldn't be the end of the board, but that was a big miss on my part. And notice I slowed down the Volibear so it doesn't connect his Q, but sadly you get dice anyways. I picked up the Lee Sin, but there isn't much more I could do because we have to cool down. Now, as far as you guys noticed, Zed died. A lot I can do about that, but in here I baited Gragas Z, so watch out. I use my ability and I bluff that I'm engaging. I'm actually just disengaging and jumping to the side, but this was a very close dash, as you guys can see. Managed to dodge his E and picked up a Gragas kill. Regardless, we can very easily just like not get dove because he doesn't have his R. And we can also like very, you know, nicely just wave clear. The minion is gonna die anyways to the tower, so you gotta pick them up. Alright, life goes on. Look at our gold. We're gonna sell our refillable. We sold our refillable. What do we get out of that? The brutalizer. So every time you get a big item, you know, pickaxe, the brutalizer, whatnot, you know, if you feel like it's worth, definitely go for it. We're gonna go profane this game. Again, we're gonna have an insane wave clear due to profane, so I don't even let the minions go under tower. The Q was unnecessary. Now Volibear could be in one of these bushes, but he doesn't have R, so that's something important to remember. We have R soon, he doesn't have R. Doesn't mean we can R him and all in him, because we still lose him. Now in here we get ganked. I slowed, that's how you got to utilize your E. In fact, you got to disengage towards bushes, ideally, because then you get to cast your E and disengage more easily, because he can't click you when you're invisible, if it makes sense. But also, like, you gotta hit your E just like this, so because if you slow him down, you'll be able to disengage from his Q, if it makes sense. If you don't slow him down, he catches you. And he walked out of his E. Lee Sin arrived. Lulu, I don't fucking know what supports are doing all the time. The Lulu arrived as well, and basically I disengaged, but I'm kinda low on HP now. Observe what I'm doing. I'm not recalling because I have my R and I'm still useful. They think I'm recalling because it would be reasonable, but we spotted an opportunity. Volibear, no R, out of position. Lulu, level 3, kind of useless, right? And we have a Cho'Gath that doesn't have aura, but it's not concerning because Alice has a lots of damage as well at this stage of the game. Now what I do here, because I have Electrocute, I go for a quick burst and disengage Soap Surf. He got stunned, and exactly when he got stunned, I'm ulting him, so we can pick him up in no time. Cho'Gath just like killed him. He didn't have his aura up, sadly, so he can get like an extra stack, but I suppose he can stack the grabs anyway, so it's kind of like whatever then, you know. Now in here we do actually recall, or do we bluff our recall now? Volibear doesn't have still his aura up, it's a very long cooldown, 155, 160 normally, but this guy does run some cooldown shit. Now, they still force this, and this is where I can't really help at all. You should just recall. In my case, it's just like I kind of felt like I can do a little. Yeah, I can't do shit here. I felt like I can do a little something. Dude, not a fucking thing. Maybe I could have proc my electro, but I didn't calculate his Q cooldown actually, so that was kind of like on me, right? But the same thing about Volibear's Q is that yes, it's like 13 seconds, but the cooldown really starts when he uses his ability. So it's a little bit tricky because if you count it when he hits a minion or when he hits you with the stun, that's not when the cooldown starts. It starts when he uses it, and this lasts for 4 seconds. So if he uses it only at the end, his Q around the end timer of his Q duration, then yeah, it should be like a -4, Switching for his Rika, right? Because he doesn't have guys a lot of mana. We can kind of like poke him. We have Profane. It's a big item, right? We have whole Profane over him. So we are actually in a strong spot currently. We do have our really nice ultimate up, so we can look for many things. Currently, I'm going for a nice proxy, which is not disrupting. I could then dash backwards if he goes in on me. In any directions practically, if he doesn't connect his Q. Now, in here, again, even throw, it's a cannon wave with Profane Hydra. You can wipe it in no time. I kited it downwards a little bit to spot if Lee Sinner's around by chance, but he wasn't. So Ambessa specifically also got buffed towards, obviously like clearing drugs. His monster damage is higher by 15 total on his Q. And with Profane Hydra's lethality, AoE, you can wipe these in no time, proxy the next wave very easily, and this way we secure the next camp. But I think in here, did I choose to recall? No, I think I did go next wave. I did also have Or, which kind flash, right? Or flash, so most of the situations you can disengage from practically. I left that minion be, I was like, yeah, it's whatever, dude. Now, in here, the smarter choice would be actually to go mid and take some plates, because Gragas was bot side. But I didn't quite notice that opportunity in time, that Lee was also dead, so I could then get two plates approximately really quickly, because I have lethality. And some armor pen in my kit, so you can take those plates down really quickly. But in the added situation, I chose to kind of like recall, rotate for my thing, but normally someone else could then, Kate could then maybe rotate up, and I would say, would she get doved? Doesn't have barrier though, it can get a bit scary. I mean, if she traps properly, it's questionable. Not impossible, but it's questionable if he gets died. No 100% know it. And even in here, like, even though we have a massive advantage, it doesn't matter. Volibear still stat checks you in all in. Sadly, that's how stat checky his W is, just as a perspective. This does 353 damage, 80 healing plus 20% missing HP healing when he connects his second W. So he marks you, then he Ws you again, his E gives him a massive shield. And his passive gives him way more DPS. It's 68 magic damage, which is usually deals more damage than physical, because you already know, guys, the drill. You always have less immortal armor. He gets attack speed and shit. Now I know I get attack speed as well, but look, I deal less physical damage. And it's not even AoE. So you can realize, like, there are reasons like why he stat checks you that hard. But now we got I did dash slightly in the wrong direction, but regardless, in here it does have Or, and I'm trying to bait it out. In here I had a misplay at some place. The Or, so that's why he healed. But I could ban damage him a little more. Maybe I could ban utilize the profane, flash basic, maybe she collectors her. Something could ban done a little better, but again, this isn't really the end of the world yet. We skip forward a little bit TP bot lane because everyone is just all over on the map, so I kinda like wanna get the whole plated tower. But again, like Volibear kinda like shows up. You got to use very consistently your E against him if he tries to like go in. Now in here we didn't really use our W correctly, which would ban soak his E damage, so I should ban E, W to E, but that was a little bit misplayed on my part. But you always got to have like an ability to disengage from his E ideally, because even in here, I didn't just have enough space to hit his ability, and again count the Q cooldown, count the E cooldown as well, right? So in here he has his Q, doesn't have his E, went for a short trade, don't wanna fully commit because you also got to calculate the energy you have. So if you use an ability to trade, but again you got to use, you got the basic attack to regain energy sometimes if you're too low on energy to dash again in a direction. But the problem is if he stuns you, you may not be able to get that Q off in time, you know, if he stuns you very quickly. The basic, I mean, to get another ability. And even in here, we just use our AoE, disengage from him. Now in here we go in actually, because he's kinda low on HP. Papa Bear is low. Now even though he would R here, which actually didn't have aura, but he would die regardless, even if he would R. So in here, this was actually the lethal window angle, but as you guys noticed, you gotta chip him down as much as possible, and you're gonna get the perfect all-in angle, you know. If you don't do that, this champion does way too much fucking damage. And can you imagine, even if I'm this fed, I cannot win an all-in into him if he stacks his passive of minions. Like, I'm telling you guys, I cannot win an all-in into that champion even now. It's just like that. It's just Volibear. So some champs don't really... I flashed, I tried to disengage, but technically it was a bit rough because he queued again and it sucked, but at least Alice did pick him up. I skip forward because currently I'm dead. He's like plated seal caps as well, so it goes a little bit resistance. Now worry, especially at now worry point, he beats you even harder. That's a funny thing, it's kinda cheap of an item. That's like the funny thing, right? Now, I'll need the anti-heal as well, but for now I'm going Black Cleaver, really beneficial for my KZ as well, and you know, generally speaking, I think there could be better items I could get here. I just really felt like getting Black Cleaver this game. I don't quite know why, but I could probably like go for something else actually. Just kinda like wanted to deal with this Volibear, but I guess that's like, probably there were better options I would say. Even Sojin is better if you wanna go a bit more durable, but if I think about it, I think this Caitlyn and Zed will value it a lot, probably. They will value it. Because overall they go a little bit of lethality, but Zed goes bruiser I guess for some reason, but I was thinking like, maybe if Zed goes lethality, I go a little bit of a lethality at some point, but it's gonna be useful though, it's gonna be useful guys. My logic I think was maybe that they have like 3 melee, so it's kinda nice to like AoE apply. I think it was like something, I have like so much AoE abilities that have like multiple effects, and you know with the you can get 2 Black Cleaver stacks, Q, Profane basics, AoE deal physical damage, the activatables, so it can be high quality to apply to 3 frontliners, or even if I order Zeri, it's also nice if, you know, if Black Cleaver is applied to her, cause you know Kate potentially just wipes her, so I think that something like that was my logic, you know, if you ask me about Black Cleaver. Like, I know it's somewhat team supportive and it's not quite Hubris, it's not quite whatever, but it does happen, So this Volibear is also getting pretty tanky I think soon, so again notice like what am I playing around guys. Volibear's W, because again like what does he do, he marks me, right? And sadly, now in here I could have been playing to his W. Now the mark is not shown, but he did actually heal off me with his W. And so this is how much like he heals, so just like as a perspective, right? At this stage I could go in because I'm this fed, so I could trade even into his second W. First of all he marks you like that, second time he fights you, and I did go for some nice trades, right? But his healing is just way too big, especially if he's low. Even in here, I literally cannot advance forward because I don't have my abilities and he heals too much on his W. And now, because his W dropped and he gave up his Q for no reason, Actually, I think in here I didn't R in, because he could then R and E, and I could die. I'm not even kidding, if he connects easy. Now, in here I think I did try to R, but they FF'd actually. I was thinking of an R angle, because this wasn't bad, but they FF'd. And it's GG well played.